Welcome to the October the 27th, 1992 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. As we bring you special segments of history of Grand Prairie, this is our history tape number 181. And we are so privileged today to have a very special couple to be with us to add their portion of history to our tapes. And we're just really delighted to welcome Dr. James and Mrs. Baisden. Welcome,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Baisden.
Ruthie. We're glad to be with you today, and this is a wonderful program you do.
Thank you very much. And Evelyn, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you on the dais today. Wonderful. Now let's begin our show with the genealogy, of course, and we're going to call you the ranking person here today, Dr. James, and if you'd look out into your camera.
All right.
All right, now tell us about your parents, give their names and anything you want to about your family.
My parents, my father was named George Edward Baisden. He married Ruby Lee Stewart Baisden. They were married in Memphis, Tennessee, though they came out of North Alabama, where they were born and reared, down near what is now where the Tennessee Valley Authority built its first dam in there, near Florence, Alabama. My father and mother were working people. Mother never finished high school. She married at a very young age. Daddy, in his life, when he came to Memphis, worked for the railroad company, and later on was employed by a compress that used to be the Memphis Terminal Compress, but was bought out by the Federal Compress Company, and he was the engine foreman, just handling the bales of cotton as they came in on the cars and taking them up to the compress and then back to the yards for delivery. To that union were born 4 children. I have a sister, Ruby, who's 5 years older than I. She lives in either Jackson or Carthage, Mississippi. I say by that. She has a house out in Carthage, but she is a widow and sometimes lives in Jackson with her oldest child. I have a brother younger than I named Merle, M-E-R-L-E. Merle lives in Fort Worth, Texas. He is retired, but for the last 20 years or so of his life, he was the Minister of Education for the Tarrant Baptist Association. Then I have one brother who is dead. His name is Harold. He was living in Richmond, Virginia, connected with the Foreign Mission Board of the Southern Baptist Convention at the time of his death.
All right. And
I grew up in Memphis, finished high school in Memphis, and was married, not in Memphis, but nearby where Evelyn grew up. But I went away to college at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. That I may have gotten over it a little further than you wanted in the background. But
yes, I'm going to back you up.
all right, I'm sorry. I get all excited when I get to think about being married.
All right. We're going to back you up into Memphis, where you went to school.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about going to school in
Okay.
Memphis when you were in elementary school?
All right.
And if you had a favorite teacher or a
Yes.
mentor,
All right.
and then we're going to get to the high school, okay?
When I went to we went to a elementary school that was 8 grades in those
All right.
days,
Okay.
and we had to walk, and I'm sure it wasn't as far as I thought it was, but we had to walk to and from school. There were not all that many automobiles, and there were no school buses taking children in school. My favorite teacher in the elementary school was my first grade teacher, a lady by the name of Miss I don't know if it's Miss or Mrs. Whitemore. She disciplined us, she taught us, she loved us, and she was concerned about what went on in our lives between school. The principal of that high school was a man named Powell, and because my dad and mother would go to PTA and would participate in things at school, they were well known. Well, when I got in high school, I decided I knew more than my parents or anybody else, and I decided I'd start smoking cigarettes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Well, when I got home from school one day, my daddy asked me about it, and I said, "How did you know that?" He said, "Mr. Powell, who was the principal of the grammar school, had seen me walk into high school. He called my daddy and told him." Needless to say, I didn't ever enjoy smoking. Very little I did after that. But then I went to Southside High School, which was a relatively new high school in Memphis, and was graduated from that. I suppose my favorite teacher in high school was a man that the first contact I ever had with the theory of evolution, you know, you don't teach religion in high school, wasn't supposed to, but he would teach that, but he would respect my position. And he encouraged me when I finished college to get into the teaching profession, which I did for a while.
And what was his name?
His name was Hilliard. I don't remember his first name.
Mr. Hilliard.
Yes.
Was there someone that really inspired you? When you were in high school, did you play in the band, football, sports, or anything?
2 or 3 reasons. I was too scrawny and little.
All right.
I had no gift at music, and we were so poor that I had to go to work after I got out of high school to
Right,
help
now tell
support
us
the family.
what you did for a living after high school.
Well, during high school, after school and on Saturdays, I'd work in an independent grocery store in Memphis.
I see. Do you remember that store?
Yes, it was owned by Italian people. It was called Santi, S-A-N-T-I, at Santi. And those people took me in as if I were one of the family, and I worked for him all through the rest of my high school days in the summertime, and there was an intervening period between the graduation from high school and going to college for financial reasons. And during that time, I worked at the grocery store. Some other things happened to help me make a living. But when I'd go back from Union University to Memphis, it's about 100 miles. He paid my railroad fare back and paid me every weekend to come and work just on Saturday for him. And I'd go back at the end of the year, Christmas time, and take his inventory for him. And he had done so well by going to that business and offered me management of stores for him. He bought some other stores. And he told me one day, he said, James, if you'd stayed with me, you could own anything you want in Memphis. And I got a church that was paying me $20 a week at that time. But you see, you commit yourself to the Lord, the money's not the thing.
That is it. Now, he was a very special mentor for you, was he not?
He was a Roman Catholic and always was.
But a good man to you.
But, oh yes. When he heard that I wasn't going to be able to go back to college, heard me telling some people, he said, James, you're going back, just go up there and sign a check. My name said you signed me in the store. Said, you can pay me back someday. He said, God called you to be a preacher. Go do that. Now, that was an Italian Catholic band that just knew me.
That's wonderful. We're going to get back with you in just a minute, but we're going to have to give Evelyn a shot at this. Evelyn, would you look out into your camera and tell us about your genealogy and start a little bit about your family? Name your parents.
My father was Henry D. Jeter. My mother, Sarah Josephine Emers Jeter. She was known as Josie.
All right, tell me, to that union were born how many children?
2 daughters.
2 daughters. We know about you, but let's name the other daughter.
My sister is Lois Duncan, Miss Ernest Duncan.
And that's here in Grand Prairie, Texas.
And that's how I came to be in Grand Prairie. We came to live here because they lived here.
All right. Now let's get back to the Jeter family. What did your dad do for a living, and where was all of this taking place when you were born? Where were you born?
My father was a farmer, and I was born in the country, in Haywood County, Tennessee. That's West Tennessee, very West Tennessee.
Right, and that's in Haywood County. Were you born in a small community that you could name drop, or did you go to a small elementary school in the country, or where did Evelyn go to school?
The name of the community was Hillville.
Hillville?
Yes.
That's great.
And I went to the first grade in a very small elementary school. And then there was a consolidated school to which I went until I finished the 10th grade.
All right.
And in our part of the world, we have county school system.
Yes.
And there was a senior high school in our county seat town, Brownsville, to which I went in the 11th and 12th grade and graduated there.
Okay, in Brownsville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Oh, that is wonderful. All right, while you were growing up and your dad was a farmer, did you ever have any responsibilities, you and Lois, as young daughters? Did you ever have chores to do or anything to that description?
Yes. We worked some on the farm, but not extensively. My father was a landowner, and there were people who worked under him who would be responsible for the crops mainly, and maybe we'd help with weighing in cotton and things of that nature mainly.
Did you ever ride the wagon to the gin?
Yes.
And, oh, tell us
I've done
about
that.
something like that. That's exciting.
But in this community, school teachers came who lived elsewhere, and they had to board in the community.
Yes.
So they lived, oftentimes we had 3 school teachers who lived in our home. So I grew up sort of as a guinea pig with those school teachers, taking tests and all the things that they taught me. So I had a very special privilege
All right.
growing up.
And in going back to all of these teachers that you had from the beginning of school up through graduation, are there some special ones you'd like to name drop or remember as real special encouragers or mentors to you?
Yes. The man who was most important to me was Mr. Barnett. He was the principal of this consolidated school. And he boarded at our house, but he was more like part of the family than one who just boarded. He would take Lois and me to his parents' home in Shiloh National Park to spend the weekend, and some others of those teachers would take us to their homes for the weekend. So I had a special growing up time.
Living out on the farm, how did you get to school?
Until I was through the 10th grade, I rode with this Mr. Barnett in his car who lived with us. But then when I was in the 11th grade, I had to ride the school bus. And I was one of the first ones to get on the school bus. I'd have to get on at 6:30 in the morning,
Wow.
and I got off about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
When you were in the high school, the final years of your education in the high school level, secondarily, who was a mentor at high school level? A teacher or someone that encouraged you to go
yes.
into teaching?
My Latin teacher, her name was Miss Curley.
And she has a special place in your memory, doesn't she?
Yes.
That's wonderful. All right, and after you finished your high school, then what happened to Evelyn?
I graduated with a part-time scholarship to Union University.
And what year did you graduate from high school?
1936.
1936. That's a good year. Go right ahead.
Well, I went to Union University.
Union University.
And that's where I met James.
And that's where you met James. All right, now let's get back to James then. We have you all
Together there.
together here. Dr. Baisden,
Yeah.
in going to the Union University, where was its location and what did you have? You were mindset to be a preacher, right?
Right.
All right, let's get on to that then and tell more about that.
After I was graduating from high school, I had some time between going to, as I said, I knew all the time that I was supposed to get myself prepared to preach, to be a minister of the gospel. Union University is owned by Baptists. It's a little Baptist college in West Tennessee, an old one. And I, under the leadership of God or something, decided to go. My parents had not been to college. And so I went over there. I was a senior when Evelyn came in, and I found out I better court her and marry her. And she went on 2 years, and then she had to drop out, and she would teach school. That's a long story in there. But we were not married while I was in college. We were married in 1940.
1940, that was a good year.
Yes, 1940. That's 52 years ago, friend. This month, October 9th.
Oh,
Yeah.
already celebrated that 52nd one.
You bet. But that old Harvest Moon
Yes.
made me propose to her.
Yes.
And in those days, you'd give your fraternity pin to the one who you engaged.
When you were in college, did you get a special encouragement from any of your professors or?
Oh, yes. I had one, Dr. C.B. Williams, whose translation of the New Testament into the vernacular street is well-known. He was teaching Greek and New Testament background, and I was under his tutorage, and he encouraged me very, very much.
And immediately after you left college, where did Dr. Baisden travel to?
All right. I went to Memphis and got a job, a substitute teaching school in the Memphis school system. In Memphis, we had a county and a city school system.
Yes, all right.
And I was a substitute school teacher. I had majored in English in college. I had a minor in Latin and math. So I had a good spread where I could be used right freely. And when I had to get a class teaching Latin, that would give me a chance to go up to Court Evelyn and let her brush me up, because she was a Latin scholar. I taught there, and in the meantime was called to a church at Germantown, Tennessee, an old part of Shelby County. Germantown, Tennessee. I was called there. It was while I was there that we were married in 1940, and we felt then we had to go to seminary, and Evelyn then was working in order for us to save up some money, and we came to Texas right after Pearl Harbor. We came to the January semester of Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in 1942.
1942, and that's over the Fort Worth, Texas area?
Yes, that's
All
where it is.
right.
That's what got us to Texas. We'd never been to Texas, but that's where we felt we should go to seminary. And we've been in Texas since then, and are grateful that God has let us stay here.
Yes.
We like
Well,
that.
we're going to leave you hanging in there in Fort Worth at the Baptist Seminary,
Right,
and we're
right.
going back to Evelyn. Evelyn, you followed him all the way from Tennessee down to this direction. I want you to tell us a little bit about your family, because we want to document your children. Would you do that for us at this time?
Yes. Our older son is Jeter Baisden.
All right.
He currently teaches at Baylor University.
All right. What is his specialty?
He is in the religion department, but he works especially with students who are preparing for ministry.
Okay. All right.
He has a doctorate in education from North Texas University.
Okay. Does he have a family?
Yes, his wife is Claudette. She's from Georgia, a graduate of Mercer University.
Do they have children?
They have one son whose birthday is today.
Wonderful.
He's 11 today.
And you would give us his name?
His name, well, we've carried the Edward through the family, so his name has the Edward in it, but we call him Ben. His name is Benjamin Edward.
Benjamin Edward, and that old family name, the Edward that's in there with Jeter as the last name, makes it wonderful, doesn't it?
And our younger son is James William Baisden, but we've always called him Bill.
Yes.
He is a dentist in the Air Force and is currently stationed at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo. He is married to a girl whom he met in college at Baylor. She's a part of the Dawson family, the Waco family.
All right, and give us her first name.
Her name is Elizabeth, and her family name is Van Hoo, but her mother is a Dawson.
All right, and do they have children?
They have 3 children.
Would you name drop those 3 grandchildren?
Fred, Brooke, and Becky.
All with a B. That is wonderful.
Everybody in their family
5
name
Bs.
starts with a B.
All right. and
Bill,
yes.
Bill's lieutenant colonel, by the way. We're right proud of that.
All right. And they are in the Waco area?
No, San Angelo.
San Angelo area. Okay, good.
They've lived there. This is the 2nd year.
Okay.
They get transferred frequently.
All right. Well, now we have the family documented and everything's ready to go. And during all of these times that Dr. Baisden was traveling around being ministers, you were aiding and abetting him, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
And substitute teaching.
Yes.
That's good. We're going to get back with you in a few minutes, but now, Dr. Baisden, we'd like to clue in on you for a little while about your career.
Okay.
And that's really not a career. That's a...
Well, it's either way. It's all
Either
right.
way.
Either way, yeah.
It's a profession, isn't it?
I served as pastor of 4 different Baptist churches in my lifetime.
All right.
The first was at Germantown,
Okay.
Tennessee, the Germantown Baptist Church. The second one, while I was a seminary student at Ector, Texas, which is up in Fannin County. I served there from 42 to 46. In 46, having completed my residence work for my doctor's degree at Southwestern, I went to the First Baptist Church in Belton, Texas, and in the summer of 56, I left there and went to the First Baptist Church of Brownwood, Texas. Each of these is a college town, and I'd always felt I'd like to be pastor of a college town, and God answered that for me.
Yes.
And then in 1960, in the summer of 1960, August, I was asked to take an administrative position with the Baptist General Convention of Texas. The position put me working with the people who administer our hospitals, our child care homes, our homes for the aging, and some chaplaincy programs in non-Baptist institutions. And that was a very challenging and wonderful time to live. That's what brought us to Grand Prairie. And we had thought we'd live in Dallas, but in looking around and Evelyn visiting with Norris, we found this house. It was just nearly completed by Bob Shanks. We bought it. We still live there and have lived there all these years. Our 2 sons were graduated from high school here, finished.
Both
their
of your sons are
Yeah.
golfers, right?
You're right.
All
And don't call them
right.
anything else. They wouldn't like that too much, and they are still proud of their heritage and and they have referred to this as home, though they were not born here. They refer to this as home. And for 21 years, I worked in that position with the Baptist General Convention of Texas.
Okay.
During the time, I have served as interim pastor of Baptist churches. Since I retired, more than before I retired, and I've enjoyed that opportunity of service. We belong to Fairview Baptist Church here.
I was hoping you were going to drop that.
Yeah. That's where we joined when we came here. That was a little different for us. I'd been in the First Baptist Church, and you know, there's no
Yeah.
2 churches are alike.
That's right.
And I'd been there, Ruthie, and I felt that maybe since Ernest and Norris were here, we knew them, that we could make some contribution to that church, and the record book will have to prove what we have or not. That's all. We've enjoyed it.
And in your outreach, other than your religious occupation, we'll call it that, I know you've been active in community service and
Yeah.
things. Name some of the groups that
All
you've
right,
been associated with.
I've been associated with the service clubs in Belton. I was president of a Rotary Club at Brownwood. Got into it, became president of Kiwanis Club. I've tried to identify with the Chamber of Commerce from time to time, not always regularly in those cities where I was pastor. I was privileged to have been on the Governor's Committee for the first White House Conference on Aging, and that conference was in December 1959. I was a delegate to that conference, and I've enjoyed that. And when we came, in the meantime, I came here, and the Dallas County delegates drew all of us that were here, and we formed a continuing group to try to implement what we had learned over there at the conference. I've done that. I've been on an advisory committee to the Texas Department of Human Resources. This is called a Church Relations Advisory Committee. I served on some committees that had to do with integration, both for the Grand Prairie's public school system and for the Commissioners Court of Dallas County. That's just a few.
That is just a few. That is a wonderful. Well, one of the things that I'll say provoked me to invite you all to be on the show, when I installed the officers for the Sunshiners, your senior citizen group, I noted with a great deal of interest that not only are you a minister, a doctor, and a go-getter, we had here when senior adults mean, what senior adults mean to Fairview Baptist Church. And this is either terse verse or poetry or whatever you. It was wonderful, and I thought that was so commendable. I know that you must have many other books and papers and letters written to your credit, and we want you to know how meaningful you are to give us 2 Gophers in Grand Prairie, Texas, and all of the other good things that you've added to our community. And we have about another minute left, so I can't let Evelyn not say the, at least next to the last word. Look out and to your camera and just say either how wonderful you think Grand Prairie is or what it means to you in 1 minute.
Grand Prairie has been very good to us as citizens, and we've tried to contribute to Grand Prairie meaningfully, and we're thankful that we've been allowed to live here these years.
And in a half minute, you'll get the last word as the senior member of this group today, an encouragement to parents and young people.
Whatever
Quick.
time you spend with your kids is more than worth it. Your family's the only one you got. Stay with it.
And come to church at Fairview every now and then.
Oh, yes. If you're not going somewhere else, you come up there, we'll take care of you.
Wonderful.
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you all both
Thank you.
for sharing your life with us today, and especially your part of the time in Grand Prairie, your genealogy, all of the good things you've done. I want to thank you for being on the
God bless you.
show.
Thank you
It's
so
just
much.
been wonderful
Thank
having you with us.
Thank
you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do. And they have frozen.